I'd like to welcome our panelists. Kate Osborne, Responsible Innovation Marketing Specialist at ISKO. Ebru Ozkukukula, Senior CSR and Sustainability Executive also at ISKO. David Hyatt, Co-founder at Hyatt Denim. And Susan Harris, Technical Director at Anthesis Group. Thank you all so much for joining us this morning. I'd like to remind our viewers as well that we will have time for a Q&A at the end of this session. So please do get your questions in and we'll get through as many as we can towards the end of the panel. So to start us off, I'd like for each of you to tell us a little bit about your businesses, just for any viewers who aren't familiar with them. So Kate or Ebru, can you give us a brief overview of ISKO?
The panelists and also the audience that are listening us. ISKO is the denim mill based in Turkey, gives the worldwide service, global service, with 35 sales office, with a huge capacity, global network, and 300 million meter capacity, and the marketing, R&D functions, and also the sustainability that we give expertise. And we are happy to make our business for the further steps with adding extra sustainable and responsible ideas. That's how we define ourselves for future.
Brilliant, Ebru. Thank you very much. David, do you want to tell us a little bit about Hyatt Denim?
Yeah, I mean, we're based in West Wales in Cardigan, and Cardigan used to have Britain's biggest jeans factory, and in 2002 that factory closed. And I was curious to go, how do we get 400 people their jobs back? Maybe we should start making jeans again. And we are direct to consumer. We have the skills in town. We want to do it in a certain way. Go and build a global denim brand and have a nice life, type of thing.
Brilliant, that's great, David. And Susan, can you tell us about Anthesis, please?
Yes, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Harris from Anthesis Group, the global sustainability consultancy. I lead our Global Centre of Excellence on Circular Economy, which is where we collect all of our experts on circularity around the world. We're a 600-strong sustainability consultancy. We operate across all of the geographic regions around the world. And our mission is to help businesses address the sustainability challenges of the decisive decade, the decade we have before us, where we can make a difference to the catastrophic climate change that we know will occur if we don't change the way we do business.
Brilliant, that's great. Thanks very much, Susan. So I want to start off with a bit of a general question about circularity. So it's a term we hear a lot about in relation to sustainability, but what does circularity actually mean to you? So Kate, would you like to start us off on that one?
Sure. I think this is a really important question, actually, and it's so critical. My role within ISKO is to help our customers tell the story of how they're working in a sustainable way, and all the work that goes on behind the scenes, and really kind of explain what that means and do so on a granular level. And circularity really in very recent years has become ever more prominent because we're all sort of really understanding and coming to terms with the fact that we're operating in a very finite world, and that each of us have a very important role to play in looking after the materials and the value chain as raw materials pass through it. So my role at ISKO is a very simple one. It's to try and, I guess, unpick a very complex message, because there's 1,000 ways that you can embed circularity into the supply chain, and that's kind of really where I'm coming from. What does that mean? Well, at ISKO, we're working with full system circularity, and that really means that we're looking at the very beginning of the process. We're working with the spinning stage, and we're building that into our RT product range as well, which is all about kind of combating what circularity is once we're sort of working at that spinning stage. What we've been seeing in that sense is that we're preserving the value of the raw materials very early on, from the very early stage of the process and maintaining that throughout. So Ebru can talk to you a bit more in detail about how that works. But in terms of kind of what that means from a consumer perspective, it's super simple. It's that, you know, we're really looking at what we're using, and we're making sure that we're maintaining that and being stewards in that process.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. David, would you tell us what circularity means to you?
Well, I'll be honest, I don't actually really know. But I think it might be something around this, and that is, there was a guy who did a talk at the Do Lectures once, and he made axes, and he wrote this piece called Responsibility for the Total. I think it's something around there. And so each bit, you can't just be responsible for one bit, you have to be responsible for all the bits. And so I think that it's the responsibility for the total. And it's not a complex message, it's actually pretty simple. And you know, as marketing people or, you know, brand people, or, you know, whichever, you know, aspect you're is you have to communicate it to another human being so it matters.
Absolutely. And Susan, do you want to tell us what circularity means to you?
Great question. I think it's really about making the most of the precious resources that we have in a way that means that we can enjoy them today and protect them for future generations. I'm by nature quite frugal. I grew up in the outback in Australia in an alternative family, and we were taught to make the most of things, you know, reusing, repairing, making from scratch. And I guess I brought that to my work a bit with me. And I think we live on a planet with an increasing population where resources are becoming more and more scarce, and therefore will become more and more costly. And of course, resource use has huge implications on our global sustainability. So it's vital that we address this. And I think it makes business sense to stay ahead of that changing picture.
Brilliant. And so the industry has been through a very difficult year, very difficult 12 months. So has the coronavirus crisis kind of changed your approach to circularity over the last year? Ebru, do you want to kick us off on that one?
Sure. First of all, it's really tough period for all global citizens, not only one country, one industry or another. But be honest, there are some positive parts as well that the industries like the apparel industry face so far, which responsibility to each other. I'm totally agree with, you know, the Mike, that responsibility to each other for all tiers increase. So to close the loop and be aware about each other, scorings are for, you know, the just one to another increase. That's why I like to be, you know, this part of resource cycle responsibility program, what circularity brings, because it's not only one man show anymore. We have to do it together, and it's so clear.
Absolutely. And so what about David, I'd like to ask you about how COVID-19 has impacted your business and your approach to circularity and sustainability. You know, have you had to kind of change or accelerate your plans?
Well, I mean, if I take the business out of it, I mean, I think like we're probably all feeling like we got enough stuff. And so like Grandmaster Ellen downstairs, she has this room. She goes into a loft and she calls it the Jesus Christ room, because she walks in and she goes, Jesus Christ, I got so much stuff. And actually COVID has actually made us think that we got plenty of stuff. And if we are going to purchase things, maybe we're going to give a little bit more thought to them. So maybe that concept, which has been around a while, but not actually practiced that much, and that is less but better. I think that's pretty interesting. Like for our business, is like, I mean, I say to the team, and it's kind of weird, I just go like, I'm only really interested in us having influence in the world. We're a speedboat, like, and we have to go and, you know, make the biggest change will come from the mainstream, not from what we do. Our job is to go and influence the mainstream in order to say and show them actually there is a better way. And, you know, like doing some partnerships with ISKO, like we're the speedboat and we have to go and make great partnerships with amazing people who allow us to go, could we do the waterless jean? Could we go and do this? We have to do more crazy shit in order to show the people in the mainstream that this stuff actually is important and people do care about this stuff.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I've been in the sea this morning, so I kind of feel like and I have had a coffee, so I'm literally need to shut up, apparently.
Not at all. And Susan, how have you seen kind of the industry's approach to sustainability and to circularity evolve in the wake of COVID-19?
I think the COVID crisis has been a huge shock to everyone in every sector, and it's impacted all sectors, but particularly those that have long and fragmented supply chains like we do in the apparel sector. I think also from a public perspective, people have become aware much more of those issues like overstock and dead stock that they weren't aware of before. It's been in the news, hasn't it? You know, lots of talk about, you know, so many hundreds of thousands of tons of stock that's left over because no one's going to stores and buying things. But then at the same time, on the other side, we've seen, you know, as Ibra mentioned, closer partnerships, and the way we operate in this new COVID world can help to bring people together. And I think that it's going to change the way that organizations source and partner. There was a recent Business of Fashion report that looked at this and indicated that around 3/4 of sourcing directors and the sourcing community expect that the trend towards much deeper partnerships is going to continue over the coming years, because people are trying to protect against that shock and need to work together to be able to do that. And I think that can have positive impact for sustainability.
Absolutely. You mentioned there, Susan, about the customer and the customer's kind of role, and you know how we speak to the customer and how we explain, you know, the benefits of our, you know, kind of sustainability goals and plans, and also circularity. So, you know, how do you think the industry you know, needs to better explain or communicate with the customer about, you know, what needs to change and, you know, the action that needs to be taken?
It's an interesting question. I think that communicating sustainability is difficult because sustainability is big and complex as a concept. But at the heart of it, when we come down to things like circularity, it can really be quite clear. We talk a lot about the durability of products, and denim, I think, is a great example of this. So you may have heard of David Chapman wrote a book about this some time ago that talks about the physical and environmental durability of products. So technically, you know, how long can a product last? But emotionally, how long am I going to love it and want to keep wearing it? And denim is one of those products that, you know, it's iconic. People love their denim, and they appear to keep it for a lot longer than many other products. I think there's something in that makes this particular area really important. And I think that when we communicate about sustainability more broadly to customers, we need to be clear, setting out clearly exactly what we mean. It needs to be relevant. It needs to be things like that element that makes sense to them. You know, I'm going to love this denim. It's been made well, and I'm going to keep it forever. And it needs to be true. You know, we need to make sure we have a level of transparency to demonstrate that we're doing what we say.
Brilliant. And Kate, the same question to you. How can we explain the benefits of circularity to customers?
Well, I think we must. I think that's probably the most important thing of all, really. For some reason, I always think about that phrase, which is the most sustainable thing in the world is the thing that isn't made. And I think you can kind of have the same kind of concept when you're talking about circularity in denim, is that, you know, the most circular thing actually probably never even existed, because you want to make things that are made to last and actually stand the test of time. And I think that's a really nice comment from Susan as well, in that, you know, I have a pair of Levi's that, you know, I've had since I was very, very young and teenage girl, and that pair of jeans, you know, is going to be passed along once I've finished with it. And I think as an industry, we can become very preoccupied with this concept that circularity is the end of life, and it's this big loop that you need to close. But the reality is that you know, there's several different loops along the way, and it's about looking at that full systems thinking, and really kind of designing waste out of the system at every single stage. So at ISKO, for instance, we work with water, we reuse water, we recycle water as well. We're really careful about the chemicals that we use, and we have that mentality of whatever you put into the process is what you're going to get out. So that's a really important thing, I think. And you know, in terms of what that means for a consumer and how we can really kind of describe that that message and what that journey is, because there's 1,000 ways that you can impact the sustainability of a garment, and that's, you know, at every single stage of the process. But it's about, I think, really clearly understanding and seeing what's going on within the supply chain, and then communicating that in a very simple way. So, you know, it really is about what you put in is what you get out, from my sense anyway.
Mm-hmm. And David, do you agree? You know, how do you think we can best communicate the benefits of circularity to the consumer?
Well, I mean, we kind of, for really important things, we really choose dull words. And I got, like, sustainability. As soon as somebody mentions that, I just go, oh God, here we go again. I like, why do we, important things, we attach such dull words? And so I think we've got to make it exciting and fun to actually do the right thing. And that is the job of the communicator, to go like, hey, of course you're going to do this. I mean, why would you do it another way? It's ridiculous. I mean, it's silly. So I think we've got to make it fun to think about doing the right thing. And as soon as we go straight to worthy, and you're like, oh, like we switch people's heads off. I mean, the thing is, we have to speak to the heart and not the head. And all the conversations are in the head and not in the heart. But the really decisive change happens in the heart. So, I mean, I sort of, it kind of frustrates me, because it's been the same conversation for a while. And I'm just going like, make it fun. Jesus, come on. And yeah, I think that's what we're going to try and do here. So sorry to be contentious.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Dave. I was just going to ask, can you give us any examples of what you've done at Hyatt Denim to try and make that fun, and that, you know, education piece be less seemingly like being educated?
We do a free repairs for life service, and it's kind of, I mean, and we don't make, the thing is, like, people make a big deal about doing the right thing, and it's just like, that's just how we do business. If we think the beautiful thing about denim, it gets better with age. There comes a point in the life of a pair of jeans where it's just perfect and the pocket goes. And so, you know, like, the eyes discard things before the hands do. And so you go, okay, so just repair the pockets and it's fine. I mean, it's not, you know, it doesn't make us saints. It's just doing the right thing. I think there's got to be, I think we need some beautiful communication. You know, like rather than talking about sustainability, you know, it's just like, let's talk about the ode to optimism. And you just go, yeah, that'd be cool. I can see that film. That'll be fun. I mean, I think we just got to step it up. I mean, if this is really important to us, and it is, then let's get good at communicating it.
Absolutely. So, Ebru, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the technical side of denim, really, and what the biggest challenges are around making denim circular.
You asked me the difficult part. The funny parts are already asked. Thank you. Okay. The trickles. Let's say not the challenge. Challenge sometimes is positive. Positive challenge is also important to make better and better. So sustainability, the challenge and the innovation. When these three words, you make a puzzle, it's comes to what, absolutely my friend said from, regarding make fashion not boring. It's very important. So first of all, for us, circularity, I'm not talking only on behalf of my company. I'm talking as, the academic programs, challenges in the industry that the people are facing, because we have to deal it together. We have to solve it together, produce together for sustainability. And repeating these words sometimes makes life not easy, because it's not fashion. People think that it's not funny. So durability and reusability to make sustainability and the circularity is very important. Unfortunately, it's taught in the industry how easy the product recycle or recyclability awareness, this much, the ready for circularity. It's not. It's a part, but it's not. Durability, longevity, like the pair of jeans that you wear more than 20 years, and also, the usage intensity, which is, I really like this wording. If it's a kind of, the instrument in your wardrobe that, the long time or any kind of accessories or any kind of, the extra product, you would like to keep it, it's also circular. It's, the long time, a colleague, a friend, a company of you. So our aim to do something, of course, ready to be recycled, but also durable, your partner for a long time. And innovation, this is, by the way, it's not only done by us. The DNA of denim is, the long-term partner of your life. So it shouldn't be, the disappear. It should be long time with you. It should be strong. Yeah. It should be, it should keep you. It should live with you. Indigo is something different, the denim is something different. You should live with it. Your pair of jeans should get the shape of your lifestyle. You should see where you put the pocket, where you wear it, how many times, or where you sit it. It should live with you. The first thing, you purchase a pair of denim, never, if I can recycle it easily. It's never. The buyers will not, shop it because it's easy to recycle. They would like it to be part of their life. That's why ISKO, our focus is always innovation. More than 50 years, we say innovation. Innovation means not something, the space art. Innovation means how we can catch the denim DNA look by adding technology. So this is very important. If, for example, recently we have a salvage collection. Salvage for the denim area is very important for the cults of denim heritage. They love it. But the denim in salvage 20 years ago, 10 years ago, can be accepted as raw. But now it should be look raw, but technology elements should be in it that can be horizontal appreciation should be received. That's why we never would like to change what is, the good for the consumer, what their expectation. We would like to add salt and pepper, not mentioning sustainability as a core dish. As a side dish, it's ready, but you still purchase fashion, you still purchase technology. This is very important for them. And I think we are doing it. We are doing it good.
Absolutely. And can you give us some detail, Ebru, on what those innovations are that are coming through with denim circularity? Just a bit more detail on how you're kind of, tackling this and innovating within this area.
For the manufacturer, circularity starts with the decision of the raw material and to end product. So circularity for the raw material decision, instead of changing the product with an alternative, you should use less. This is very important. And using less without keeping, the look and without sacrificing the strength of the fabric, how you can maintain it. And also the extra sourcing like water and carbon footprint resulted, you have to reduce it. You have to use less. Even some parts maybe not using it, like water, like chemical. How you reuse it, how you recover it. These are very important to add circularity scoring to your product, to your process. For a manufacturer, not only the production, process, social compliance circularity is very important as well, not only the environment circularity. How you maintain your employee portfolio, are they happy? circularity, continuity to your, the social compliance as well, in the same parallel with your environment circularity. So these are the ones who add scores to the final product. By the way, how we understood and keep these scores to share with third party like Anthesis Group, or to share with my partner like the Huge Denim, we are making life cycle assessment, EPD verified life cycle assessment, and we are sharing it with our partners to show that this is something done in advance before you request. What we can do more with your washing facility, with your customer portfolio. Our business never ends when the product is ready. After service idea in ISKO is very important.
Absolutely. So I wanted to kind of put that question about social compliance you mentioned there, Ebru, to the rest of the panel. So David, what are you kind of doing within your business, to make sure that the entire business is circular, from the way that you kind of work with your partners and keep staff happy and all of that.
Well, I mean, it sort of goes back to what I said at the beginning: is the responsibility for the total, and it's an interesting thing to understand. We want to do the right thing, but the fact is that maybe 80% of the environmental impact is after we've shipped it, and so it's the ironing and the washing, and so we've got to understand there's all the aspects to it. So we can do a no wash club, and that's been one of the most successful things we've ever done. And people go without washing their jeans for 3 years, and at the end of it, when they do wash it, it's the most beautiful pair of jeans ever. So it's probably one of the better jeans for the planet, but also a beautiful jean for the planet. So the things that we can control, I mean, obviously working with the best denims, the lowest impact, waterless jeans, taking microplastics out. It's kind of like Jim Collins wrote a great book, and it's called Fly. And eventually there's momentum and it gets easier. And people make the mistake of asking the question, what was there one single turn that made it go fast? But it's not all the turns. It's not just one turn, it's all the turns. And so it's all the things that we do, everything that we do that adds to the total. And so it's just, I'm mindful of that. And we're not perfect. I mean, it's just the big sign on the outside of the building is, how can we be lower impact today than we were yesterday? And it's such a great question. And every day you just go, wow, come on, like, what can we do today? So it's like an ongoing quest.
Brilliant, thanks, David. And Susan, what are you seeing from businesses within the fashion industry around social compliance and circularity?
I think it's a huge issue. ESG, environmental and social governance, as an area has just come to the fore so much over the last 5 years. So many investors and stakeholders now expect a high level of ESG from the companies that they support. So this is not just looking at environmental impact, but also the social impacts across the whole supply chain, labor standards from primary production upwards, through to, engagement with the customer. And that full perspective, I think, is really important, because not only do we need to transition to a more circular economy, but we also need a just transition to a circular economy that makes that transition possible for all of the people who play a part in the supply chain. And I think that because of the intrinsic link between this element of sustainability, circularity, and resources, and how we use resources, there's just such a natural link there between the social and the environmental. What we use and how we use it, how we expect people to treat it in whichever part of the supply chain they work in, has enormous impact on their day-to-day life. So these two issues naturally fit together. And I think it's no surprise that we're seeing an increasing focus on ESG and non-financial disclosures. I'm frequently asked to do environmental and social governance assessments for companies that are, seeking to demonstrate that they're taking this seriously right across their supply chain. And I think it's a really important way for companies to make sure that they're doing good in all aspects of their business.
Brilliant. And we've had absolutely loads of questions through from our viewers, which is brilliant. So I want to get through as many of those as we can. So the first one that somebody has asked is, how are you using technology to support your sustainability goals? David, I can see you nodding there, so I'm going to go to you first.
Well, if you think we're like this tiny speck in the grand scheme of the world, but our job is to try and get to the future a little bit before others. So we're using, with our supply chain, we're using the blockchain. We're partnered up with a company called VeChain, so we can start measuring and with more transparency each aspect of the the supply chain. We're going to get to a point where if you work with what 3 words, you can measure like a meter of land, so you could actually measure the waterfall of where the cotton is grown. And I'm going, oh, that's pretty interesting. And and we can measure minute by minute the water that's coming out of the factory and actually what's in there. And so our job is, we've got to be doing interesting stuff. Otherwise, we're not really relevant. I mean, if we want to go and change the mainstream, we have to go and show them that this stuff is possible, people buy it, and therefore we want to influence that mainstream.
Brilliant. And at ISKO, how are you using technology to support sustainability? So I don't know if Kate or Ebru, who wants to take that one.
I think, let me start. Kate will give the flowers at the end, because adopting the technology is very important, but telling this technology to our partners is very important as well. That's why Kate's last sentence is very important to this question. What we do, first of all, as I said, the main instruments that we have are raw material, process production, and also, the deliveries of this, the product. These are, the main pillars. It's called in life cycle assessment, downstream, core, and upstream functions. So how we can add technology, innovation? First of all, we are starting, thanks to our brother company, Sanko Holding, we are integrated company. This also makes life easier for us because we start innovation and adopting technology at the fiber level. And at the fiber level, we start sustainability ideas and perspective. With our R2 technology recently developed by using reuse and the recycled material, more than 50% of our constructions, we eliminate the impact of raw material sourcing for all articles, for all collection that we do. So this also lower the portfolio impact that we give the world. Secondly, in the process of the production, using less in every single step is very important by us. Not only the environment management system, but also chemical management systems adopted by ZDHC and the Blue Sign portfolio rules. So more than 90% of our inventories are ready for reuse and recycled materials. And another important portfolio that we have in terms of sustainability that supports technology. Also, we have a global approved accredited lab for final product usage in terms of technology. So our searches and the accreditation with global universities and the programs are in continuous base. So what we can do for 2025, what we can do 2030 with closed loop functions, we never give up and searching more and more to do better with high-end, high-technique fiber blend fabrics. And Kate, I think it's better you to finalize what we do so far.
And I think that's a really interesting point as well, because when we talk about our R2 technology, yes, okay, that is a circular product. It's looking at the spinning stage, but it's also a mindset, and it's this this idea that, you know, our job is never really done. It's that we're always looking back to how we're making this product, and then reintegrating higher grade recycled or reused fibers into it. And it's about not just adding that into the mix, it's about also, you know, looking at what that touch and feel is, and then what that technological benefits are, and you know, the end product that reaches the consumer. At ISKO, we're really famous for our 4-way stretch. It's something that makes like super comfort and actual added benefit to the consumer. And actually what that means is, you know, we can offer that with much less resources and raw materials from the very beginning. And it's shown. We look at our EPDs and we look at our life cycle assessments, and you can see the numbers. And I mean, if you went and took an EPD or a life cycle assessment sheet and looked at it, it's a complicated set of numbers. It's something, it looks like you could be reading. I mean, I don't know. It takes time to understand it and really kind of get to grips with what's going on there. But what does that mean for a consumer? It means that, you know, when you're talking about how much water you've saved, that then becomes very, very real, because you can see those numbers going down every single time we reformat what we're doing with R2. So it's you know, we talk about technology. It's a technology, yes, but it's also, I guess, a philosophy and this mindset for us to take circularity to the next stage and really have a commitment in terms of seeing everything we're using and being pioneers in that sense, I think.
Brilliant. We've had a question through about kind of water specifically, and how both ISKO and Hyatt Denim are measuring you know, the water usage. So can you give us a bit more detail on that aspect, please?
Sure.
David, do you want to go first?
Oh, sorry.
David, you first.
Okay. I mean, probably 89% of our denim is raw denim, so it really hasn't had a wash. I mean, obviously, if there's some stretch, it will have a rinse wash. So we keep trying to keep it as a complete minimum. So it's, but you know, we're in our high end, you know, raw denim aspect, but we also know that the stuff that we can reduce. Obviously, I mean, we're really doing a project right now for the waterless jean, but we also know that the water that we can save is nothing compared to the water the customer can save. So actually, the no wash club probably saves more water than we ever can, and so so I'm sort of conscious of that. Because sometimes we think we're doing the right thing, but actually the biggest win is over there, and I sort of and you know, that's the thing that we beat ourselves up every day. You go, oh yeah, we can do this, but actually the biggest difference, you know, if you really truly want to make a difference, is over there. So, and I think we just got to understand that it's you know, there's quite a bit to this.
And every
Yes, as manufacturer, as tier 2, what we do so far, environment management system that's existing more than a long time in ISKO has automated program system. So every single step, every single process, we have every single minute, we have you know, the function to check the consumption of not only the water but also, you know, the other musts of the, you know, the line, like, you know, the energy usage, stream usage, you know, the chemical drop, everything. So for any single product and any single process, every single minute we can check, you know, the consumption. Why it's important, you know, because as you know, David said, today what you are doing should be better than yesterday, and tomorrow your target should be, you know, the coming day. So how much you are working for your current business, if you are aware about your past, this much you can do better for the future. And this is our concentration. First of all, our competitor always us. We always compete first ourselves. That's the main issue, you know, and that's why first we decide to be aware about what we do, what we can do better. that levels up, and challenges us. This was your question in the beginning. What's your challenge? If you challenge yourself, what you can do for further, it's important. And also, I would like to add something, regarding the technology. Of course, David, we are talking about raw denim, that raw denim not water needed, but the many, more than 50%, 60% of the consumers are, be part of, the stretch, and they would like to be, the innovative kind of, the fabric. As ISKO, technology is not only production and the process, as I said, also fiber. So with our patented recall technology, we eliminate consumer water usage as well. This is very important, I would like to share here, because more than 80%, 90% of the consumers are washing their pants because they are not dirty, because they lose fit. And if the technology starts with fiber and, just gets creamy part with the fabric, with this patented recall technology, who they wear look like fit, and day and night, you don't need an extra pants that never lose fit. It's very important. Also, you don't have to wash it to come back the first shape. So this eliminates, it takes out customer pockets more than 50-60% water and carbon footprint in terms of purchase, in terms of emotional sustainability. This is very important.
Yeah, very cool.
Brilliant. So we've got time just for one last question, so we'll try and squeeze it in. One of our viewers has asked about next steps. So where do we go from here? So if you could briefly tell us kind of your, the sustainability and, in particular, the goals towards circularity that you're working on. David, do you want to go first on that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing I'm thinking of and conscious of is like for brands out there, makers out there, is stop making things that people don't want. So, and if you think a third of all clothing gets burnt because actually it's produced but actually no one wants it, you go, well, there's a third win. And so like the advantage of being a direct to consumer brand is like you only really make what people want to buy. And I think that's an interesting thing from a supply chain thing. I think maybe one of the big things, especially, like businesses now have to go direct because actually they haven't had shops for a while. And actually their supply chain might get better managed because they suddenly realize that nobody wants this, so should we not make it? And there was an awful lot of inefficiency in the supply chain, and literally people were burning stuff. A third of all clothes made were burnt, and you go, that's just terrible. And it's just because, like, you go, well, just get to know your business better, get to know your customer better. I think that's a real opportunity, I think.
Absolutely. And Susan, what are you seeing kind of across the industry, the goals over the next 12 months? What are businesses working towards?
I think that as far as circularity goes, there are so many areas that brands are stepping up and manufacturers are stepping up and supply chains are stepping up to address, which is really exciting to see. Many brands and retailers are setting circularity targets to be 100% circular by 2025 or 2030 or 2040, which is really good to see. I think that we're seeing an increase on focus on technical solutions of the kind that Ebru was talking about. What at a fiber level, what can we do to increase the circularity of the products that we produce? And I think also within the broader context, many brands are starting to really focus on the durability, the usable life of clothes to be loved for many years that we spoke briefly about before. Further than that, re-commerce and new business models, I think, is such a huge area. The growth in that sector over the last 5 years is enormous. I was involved in the Circular Fashion report just recently that looked at this, and it's going to be a $64 billion industry in the not too distant future. There's 39% year-on-year growth in that sector. So these broader business models are so important as well. So I think there's a lot going on, and I think bringing that together in a way that consumers understand relating that to the key aspects of sustainability that they hear about, like climate change, is really, really important. So linking circularity and carbon together.
Absolutely. Brilliant. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this morning. Thank you so much to our panelists, to Kate, to Ebru, David and Susan for your insights. Really appreciate you joining us.